It's not often that you can say when a team reaches the verge of 200 that the bowling side has actually done well. But that's exactly what India have done, with England going rampant in the first 10 overs or so. 111 for 2 they were at one stage, and then finishing up with 198 for 9, 87 for 7 in that phase. And that was truly a good comeback from India. Have a look at that. Hardik Pandya, who went for 22 in his first over, finishing with his best ever T20 international figures, 4 for 38. Wonderful first game for Siddharth Kaul, and Deepak Chahar too, after a shaky start, coming back with a wicket and with decent figures under the circumstances. Jason Roy was brilliant for England, but after that, it was downhill all the way. To discuss that on Cricbuzz Live with Joy Bhattacharjya and Zaheer Khan. Zaheer, you'll have to say, well done to the Indian bowling lineup after what looked like 220, even 230?
Absolutely. I think, the way things started for England and the way Jason Roy was batting, I think looked like it's going to be one of those mammoth scores which most of the times, before you start the batting, you kind of know that, this is going to be a very difficult task. Anything under 200, I think, on this kind of surface with shorter boundaries, you've seen that, boundaries and sixes, the number has been on the higher side in this innings, even though it's less than 200. So that's something which Indian batsmen will take positives from. The wicket has looked good, contrary to what everyone believed. I think everyone were expecting the wicket to do a bit more, but wasn't the case. So I think the India has given themselves a good chance, and I'm sure, end of the match, still irrespective of the result, there will be some debate about, why not Kuldeep? That's something the question which I think the management will have to ask themselves and probably have to answer to many of us.
Two things there. 198 in isolation is an excellent total. But if you look at it from the point of view of that psychological barrier of 200 not having been conquered, and India walking off the field the happier side with 87 for 7 for England.
No, absolutely. In fact, I felt those two last dot balls were also, as Zaheer will tell you, that T20 is all about momentums. And obviously that momentum has at least shifted to the Indian side. And if they can carry that momentum in the first 3, 4, 5 overs of ball batting, then you have a match in your hands. Because really, that's a fact of the matter. After the kind of start they got, they shouldn't have ended up here. But I think this is also a part of what is the English batting philosophy now, which is, if you'll notice, no batsman bothers to this getting set or seeing yourself in. They don't do it at all. They go from ball one because their belief is that 20 overs is too short a time. If you get yourself in, you get yourself. If you don't, there's another batsman out there. And because their batting order is so long, they bat till 9 and 10, they take that chance. They say, okay, fine, Adil Rashid is going to come in. He's got 10 first-class centuries. If he can't whack the ball, somebody can. Now, you may not agree with the philosophy, but that's the way they play the game. And that's why on good days, they'll get 230. But on days like this, they could have easily got 210 had they played a bit more carefully.
Fair point there. I guess the only exception to that rule may be Alex Hales, who's trying to reinvent himself. He used to be in a very different mold earlier. But the Indian bowling, if you have a look at it, in the first few overs, you really would want to turn away from these bowling figures, because 4 out of 5 of the bowlers were going well in excess of 10. Only Chahal was under 8. And then Hardik Pandya coming back brilliantly. 22 in his first over, his most expensive ever. And look at that, 11 dot balls, all of them in his second spell.
Absolutely. I think he's done a fantastic job. And I think the big thing about Hardik Pandya is his ability to adjust. And, Zaheer, you'll know more about that. How he.
But I think, it's in this format or just in any match, I think, it's so important to keep believing in yourself. And when you have such a tough start, I think, when you give away so many runs in the first over, as a bowler, it's never easy, it's never easy to come back unless you have belief in your abilities, and that's something which is very important, that you react to the situation, and Hardik has really responded well today, coming up with answers to the situation which he was put in.
2 wickets in 1 over, that crucial 14th over.
So you got to have these kind of breaks, to shift that momentum. I think, the reason England has not been able to score that or achieve that 200-run mark is because the whole bowling unit, in spite of being put under pressure, stuck to the processes, understood the situation, understood the ground conditions as well. I mean, you know, when you have shorter boundaries, your pass score does have that kind of impact. You know, that you can give that 10 or 20% leeway. So if you look at the things from that angle, I think, you know, it's still like 175, 180 on some other ground, because the margin of fours and sixes will be different here.
Your reaction on the two new bowlers? Remember, we had Bhuvaneshwar out with an injury, Bumrah already out. They decided to leave Kuldeep Yadav out, so we'll debate about that later. But Deepak Chahar and Siddharth Kaul coming in, both of them. Get your take on that.
Well, I think Siddharth responded well. Deepak Chahar, I felt, was little bit on the shorter side to start with, you know, and that's something, you know, which is understandable, because different conditions. You are used to playing in Indian conditions where you usually been brought up and knowing that, you know, a 3/4 length is going to work in your favor. In English conditions, you have to just alter that length, you know, just bowl a bit fuller, and that's something which you've seen in his spell as well. He adjusted later on. T20 is a very short format that way, you know, there is hardly any time to adjust. But I think I was very impressed with Siddharth Kaul. You know, he was brought in to bowl when England already had that kind of platform, and the batters were set. So he was really bowling those Yorkers well. He has certainly added a yard or two to his bowling, which we saw during the IPL as well. So yeah, a good debut for him as well.
No,
yeah.
For me, Chahar, the biggest thing was they did it deliberately also. If you see the amount of movement Joss Butler was doing in his crease just to upset his length, because their idea was do not allow them to settle at all. And I think that's why the fight back, especially partially first from Hardik Pandya and from Siddharth Kaul, is even more, you know, is more praiseworthy, because they were deliberately, when they were up, they were saying do not allow any of the Indian bowlers any length to settle into. You know, and they did that fairly successfully, but these guys came back very well.
A little help from the old man who's just turned a year older yesterday. 5 catches, the highest ever by any wicketkeeper in a T20 international, and add to that 1 run out. So 6 dismissals for MS.
Yeah. And a very, very close call for Indian cricket, because he just about managed to vault over the wicket when he was taking that catch of Owen Morgan. And had that wicket been 6 inches higher, Indian cricket might have changed. So I'm happy it hasn't.
Let's stick to that. But in terms of run chases, Zaheer, India have 2 successful 198 plus run chases, though both of them, one in Mohali, one in Rajkot, have been in Indian conditions. Now you might say that it's partially Indian conditions there, but you'd still, where would you put your money, even metaphorically?
In these sort of chases, there are 2 things which are very important. One is a repetitive thing which we keep saying, that, you know, the start is very important. First 6 overs are going to be very crucial, but someone needs to play that one long inning. You know, that's crucial as well. You know, someone needs to, if you are in, you got to make sure that, you know, you score that 70-80 runs, and that's something which really helps in this shorter format, because then the others can rally around you. You know, the other batsmen also can take that kind of risk. Having said that, this Indian batting lineup is pretty settled. They have enough experience in the batting order, but someone like Rohit Sharma needs to fire today. You know, these kind of conditions, it's just ideal for him. If he sees that new ball phase off, I think, you know, it's going to be a treat to watch Rohit Sharma if he gets going.
But we've talked a lot about, yes, the start, but we've also had lots of discussions from Manchester to Cardiff to here about the Indian batting order. Right from Ireland, Virat Kohli has been talking about the possible experimentation. Now, I'm not saying experimentation for the sake of it, but experimentation as per situation. Today you're chasing 199 as opposed to 169. Do you look at a floater? Do you look at something different?
See, if you look at it now, the Indian team doesn't really have, other than Hardik, a really good designated floater. And Hardik's not really a floater, he's more of a batsman. My big worry is that India has a kangaroo tail, much longer tail than the English attack. If you look at it,
don't count Deepak Chahar out. Though.
Yeah, give me Chahar, come on. I mean, really, you'd say he's not really your number 8 batsman, shouldn't be your number 8 batsman. So you're number 8, number 9, you're looking slightly longer, so they'll be looking back and saying, there's not that much batting left over. So that's my only worry, you know. And secondly, you know, all these guys, these are all clean hitting guys. I mean, if you have people like Rohit, KL Rahul, Virat Kohli, do you really need a floater? Because these guys time the ball so beautifully, let them do it here.
You agree?
You look at the batting order and you ask yourself, okay, floater is a good idea, but where are you going to use that floater?
Yeah,
there is no room. I think, and you've seen Rohit Sharma when he's set, the way he bats. You've seen KL Rahul, if he's in, how he's going to bat. And Shikhar, you need not mention, because he's always been attacking. Virat Kohli is someone who's known to be a chase master. So he gets going in these kind of situations. So I think this batting lineup, when you see top 6, top 7 now, Hardik Pandya will be batting at number 7. I don't see any room for floater.
I guess it's a little similar to England. I mean, you could think of David Willey in theory as a floater, but again, if you look at those top 5, they're hard-hitting enough batsmen to need to warrant a gap in there.
In fact, the only gap I see out there is Owen Morgan, and I was looking at it. See, you can't look at T20 international results because there's such a small body of T20 international results that you can't really, the statistics are not meaningful at this point. But Owen Morgan, for other countries versus other countries, averages about 37, 38 in one-day internationals. He averages 26 against India. I don't know what it is, but he just never seems to get going against India.
It showed in this series, it showed today as well. I mean, he just looked desperate. He tried really hard to get out, succeeded finally in the end.
Absolutely. He just isn't the same player versus India, and I've often wondered why. Because he's a phenomenal batsman. There's no doubt he's a T20 revelation. He's built for this game, but it doesn't work against India.
So going ahead, looking at the England bowling for a moment, Adil Rashid, yes, maybe he'll be a factor. But again, looking at the fact that India have played one spinner, they've got one spinner at their end. Their possible part-timer in Joe Root also not in the lineup. So Ben Stokes is the X factor that comes in there. So you've got Paul Jordan, Rashid, Plunkett and Willey from the previous game. And now you've got that 6th bowling option in Ben Stokes. And Morgan mentioned at the toss that yes, he's available to bowl.
Yes, I think that's big news for England. If Ben Stokes is available to bowl, then that gives you that flexibility of using the 6th bowling option. And if someone like Adil Rashid having a tough day, you can actually continue with seamers. One thing for sure, I think from England's planning so far, we've seen there will be a lot of short bowling. There will be a lot of those short pitch deliveries used, and whatever use they can do of that longer boundary on the square side, they will try and use that. But if you need 2 batters to get in, India has got enough firepower to get closer to the total, to set that platform for the likes of Suresh Raina, Hardik Pandya and MS Dhoni to finish the job.
Yeah, good point about the short bowling, because that's where you get the long boundary. And if you pitch the ball up as we've seen today,
65, 60, 55.
All those flaps will come into play.
Yeah, all the houses you've visited, you can think about their furniture again.
Yes, absolutely. But I think one more look at that little toughie. I know you've seen a few of the results coming in. So I think for anyone who may have missed it in our pre-show, another look at the joy factor.
Okay, here goes. Kamran Rabi did it in 2010 for Bangladesh. Harry Conway did it for Australia in 2012. And Sandeep Lamichhane of Nepal did it in 2016. Which Indian cricketer did this feat or whatever he did in 2014? What's the connection? Obviously, it's a current Indian cricketer. I can't tell you anymore.
Yep, we're not going to ask for any more. Just final thoughts before we go in. Remember, 199 is what India need. This is the decider. 1-1 after Old Trafford and Cardiff, and this is where it all finishes for the T20 internationals as we go through to the ODI. So it's going to be a crucial game, not because that trophy means as much, but it's about starting the summer well. It's about getting your hands on that first piece of silverware going into the 50-over format and the test format. So where do you see this going? 60-40 still in favour of England with that total, or you still see 50-50?
No, I say it's a 50-50. I think if the Indians get a good start, they have a very good chance, because it's very difficult to contain on a pitch like this. So basically, if you're in, you'll win this. Power play important?
Very, very important, I think. And I would say it's 50-50 as well, because Indian batting lineup has been known to deliver. And the conditions, if you look at so far in the game, halfway mark looks an even game to me.
Am I allowed to be unpatriotic here?
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thrown enough things. When I mention England not making the final, when I mention 170, my predictions have been way off the mark in every single one of the games. So might as well just go in an opposite direction. I'll maybe favour the home side, 60-40 at the moment. But the if factor, India need to start well, and certainly I won't be complaining if they do. We'll come back at the end of the game. Cricbuzz Live.